In Iran, the mourning activities in honor of the recently dead President Ebrahim Raisi as preparations are being made for his burial. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces withdrew from Jenin after besieging the West Bank city for 48 hours and killing 12 people. And in Ecuador, President Noboa decreed a new state of emergency in 7 provinces and 1 canton in the country. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. The mourning activities in honor of the recently dead Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi continue in Iran as preparations are being made for his burial. In this regard, thousands of people gathered to pay homage to Raisi in a procession in the city of Birjan. According to the funeral schedule, the president's body arrived in Mashhad on Thursday, his hometown and burial place. After Ebrahim Raisi's death was confirmed, hundreds of mourners gathered in the streets of Iran, carrying pictures of Raisi, black and white flags, and religious symbols to pay homage and bid farewell to the leader. Representatives of more than 50 international delegations attended the funerals of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi, Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian, and his officials. And funeral ceremonies in honor of the President Raisi were held on Wednesday at Tehran University and Azadi Square in the Iranian capital, headed by Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Attendees included heads of state, ministers, parliamentarians, and also special envoys from Pakistan, Iraq, Japan, Syria, Russia, among other countries. Now we move on to other topics. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces withdrew from Jenin after besieging the West Bank city for 48 hours and killing 12 people, including 4 minors. According to the director of the Raisi hospital, Fawad Hamad, a 30-year-old Palestinian died early this morning from his wounds, and among the dead were also 4 teenagers between the ages of 15 and 16. The Israeli military operation ended almost 48 hours after it began on Tuesday morning, when snipers were deployed on rooftops and military jeeps and bulldozers destroyed streets and houses in the city. During the siege, soldiers shot journalists, wounding one of them with bullet fragments. Since October 7th, the Israeli army intensified its already frequent incursions into the occupied West Bank, having killed 518 Palestinians since then in the region alone. Meanwhile, intense Israeli bombardments in the Gaza Strip have claimed the lives of dozens of civilians, while the occupation army advances with its land operation in the neighborhoods of Rafah. Wafa news agency reported that 8 people were killed, most of them children and women, while several others were seriously injured after the Israeli attack on a house in the Al-Nusayrat camp in the center of the Palestinian enclave. On the other hand, 16 people were also martyred, among them 12 children, after the bombing of a house in the Al-Darash neighborhood in Gaza City. In parallel, the Zionist army advances and continues advancing in its ground operation in Rafah neighborhoods, while the UN agency UNRWA announced the suspension of food deliveries in the region due to insecurity. We stay in Palestine with more information, as the Israeli occupation army has reportedly committed 6 massacres against families in the Gaza Strip during the last 24 hours, resulting in more than 60 civilians dead. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, around 138 people were wounded and sent to hospital for treatment. The health entity indicated that they still do not have an exact number of dead and wounded, since there's still victims under the rubble in places of difficult access. The authorities also informed that the death toll from the Israeli genocide is now more than 35,709, and around 80,000 wounded since October 7th. And meanwhile, Iraq received at Baghdad International Airport the first group of 27 wounded Palestinians from Gaza to be treated and receive medical attention. Authorities reported that this is the first group to arrive, and it includes a number of children, women and elderly people with their 42 companions. Upon arrival, Iraqi Health Ministry ambulances transported the wounded and their families to the medical city in Baghdad, where they will receive treatment. The Iraqi initiative to provide assistance to the wounded in Gaza comes amidst the total deterioration of the health care system in the Palestinian enclave as a result of the ongoing Israeli aggression.
An Iraqi military plane landed carrying 27 wounded Palestinians specifically from the Gaza Strip and, according to the directives of the Iraqi government and the Iraqi Ministry of Health, all necessary health requirements, whether therapeutic or rehabilitative care, must be provided through the Ministry of Health Institutions, which has completed its preparations to that effect.
Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak called for a snap national election for July 4th, assuring that British could choose their future with this vote. The statement was made outside Downing Street Gate on Wednesday as his Conservative Party faces an uphill struggle to extend its 14 years in power. Sunak also stressed that he will fight for every vote and will demonstrate that only a libertarian government under his leadership, according to him, will maintain the country's economic stability. The Prime Minister had been required to hold an election by January 2025 and had long resisted calls to be specific about his plans. However, a fall in inflation rates seems to have provided the backdrop for his announcement. South Africans will also go to the polls on May 29th to vote in national and provincial elections. According to the Electoral Commission, a total of 27.9 million people are registered to vote. The nation will have the opportunity to choose the leaders of the country's seventh government among the 14,903 candidates of 70 political parties and 11 independents who are running for seats in the legislative assemblies. In this context, and according to opinion polls, the African National Congress, the ANC, the party in power since the first democratic elections in 1994, could for the first time lose its absolute majority in parliament and be forced to form a coalition government.
It's hard convincing them, honestly. You know, when they made up their mind, it's very hard. But I've been telling them, because we need changes, we need all of that. For us to get some of those, we need to vote. If you're not voting, how will they know? We need all of those things.
People are really scared that whether or not they vote, things will still get worse. I think there is that fear, but I think it's really important to try and not give in to that fear. To try and be an active citizen, try and vote, try and see who can actually help, or what choices can I make in my personal capacity to help my country.
On Wednesday evening in the Mexican state of Nuevo León, the stage collapsed at a campaign rally for presidential candidate Jorge Álvarez Maínez. The incident left at least 9 people dead and several injured. In the northeastern city of San Pedro Garza Garcia, a strong gust of wind blew unexpectedly, causing the lights and huge screen to smash into the stage where mayoral candidate Lorena Canavati Maínez and members of his Citizens Movement Party were near the audience. Authorities revealed that the collapse left at least 9 people dead, including a child and around 50 injured. After the incident, the President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and presidential candidates Claudia Sheinbaum and Xochitl Gálvez sent their condolences to the families of the victims. And presidential candidate Maines shared his views on this incident.
I saw a lot of fallen trees, and such a short time later there is not even a storm or rain. You see how the city is. It is really atypical what happened. I trust that the mayor, the governor, the state civil protection, as they are responsible, will investigate whether these civil protection licenses were exhaustive. And I believe that there should also be absolute transparency in this regard. They were moments of great uncertainty, and we are still living moments of great uncertainty and concern because it is a tragedy that the people who came to live a day of celebration, of joy with us, with the group, are now victims of this tragedy.
In other news, in Ecuador, in the midst of the wave of armed violence that is shaking the country, President Daniel Noboa decreed a new state of emergency in 7 provinces and 1 canton in the country. The measure will be applied for a period of 60 days in the provinces of Los Ríos, Guayas, Santa Elena, Manabí, El Oro, Cumbíos, Orellana, and the canton Camilo Ponce Enriquez of the province of Azuay. According to Executive Decree 275, which establishes the measure, the inviolability of the domicile and correspondence in the aforementioned entities is suspended. The President made a statement on the matter and said that with this new state of exception, the second phase of his fight against terrorism in the country begins. And to win it, according to him, military intervention is necessary.
To win in the second stage of the war, we need the military to be allowed to act. That the criminals and terrorists who take cover and mock the forces of order and justice, in their right to the inviolability of the home, know that they will lose it.
In Peru, President Dina Boluarte filed a lawsuit before the Constitutional Court against the judiciary and the Public Prosecutor's Office, accusing them of allegedly undermining the exercise of her functions and competences. According to local media, the president argued that there was an alleged interference by both institutions of justice in her functions as President of the Republic of Peru. Likewise, the head of state appointed the Prime Minister Gustavo Adrianzen to present the lawsuit and represent her during the process. Boluarte's decision comes in response to a new investigation announced by the Public Prosecutor's Office regarding the Rolex Gate case, which investigates Boluarte for the alleged crime of illicit enrichment after the purchase of luxury watches. Now we have a final short break coming out, but before, we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In the flood-ravaged areas in southern Brazil, the displaced people are facing a variety of challenges. Our correspondent Brian Muir has more details.
The floodwaters in Porto Alegre, a metropolitan area of 3.5 million people in southern Brazil, have gone down below the 4-meter mark. The water is currently receding at the rate of about 1 centimeter an hour. Even so, the civil defense says that they're not going to fully recede until June, and there are currently 280,000 people in the city who've been forced out of their homes. 71,000 of them are living in shelters, like the one I'm standing in, an improvised gym owned by the National Commerce Association, the SESI. Now, I've talked to residents who say that they don't think they're ever going to be going back to their neighborhoods. One man I spoke to is from a neighborhood called Beira Rio, behind the Grêmio football stadium. He said that it's already flooded 3 times in the last 6 months. Last September, the floodwaters rose up to waist level. Now the houses are still underwater, and to make things worse, his local store was located in that area, and he and several other residents I've spoken to are now saying they've lost everything. They have to think about where they want to live. They don't have houses anymore. They don't know what to do. Meanwhile, as the federal government issues emergency grants of 5,100 reais to every family that's been forced out of their homes by the floodwaters, locally displaced people are complaining that the city government is making things difficult. They're demanding things like photo IDs. In some neighborhoods, the floodwaters rose so fast, people didn't have time to gather their things. And there are thousands of people who don't have any kind of document whatsoever. This is slowing down efforts to get them the assistance that they need to start rebuilding their lives.
Who never ever fails to deliver.
We go now to the world of sports, as the mountain climber Thais Herrera became on Tuesday the first Dominican woman to reach the summit of the Everest. In this regard, for the ascent to the Himalayan mountain range that began on May 16th, Herrera prepared for 39 days, during which she climbed mountains and lived about 2 weeks at more than 5,200 meters. The mountaineer reached the ambitious goal together with compatriots Ivan Gomez and Karin Mella. It is worth noting that this is another achievement for the athlete who climbed the Mera Peak in Nepal at the beginning of March and was congratulated in December by the Ministry of Women in the Dominican Republic for carrying the national flag to the Antarctic. We move on to NBA basketball, where the first game of the best-of-7 series between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas Mavericks was played. In this sense, the Dallas team won the first match on the Western Conference playoffs with a final score of 108-105. Precisely playing at home in Target Center Stadium, Minnesota was unable to materialize in the second half after leading in the first 2 periods, while the Mavericks secured a comeback victory led by Serbian player Luka Doncic and Australian-born Kyrie Irving, who scored a combined 63 points. On the other hand, Anthony Edwards led the way by the Timberwolves with 19 points and 11 rebounds.
What a first half by Kyrie. It's lively on top.
And the National Basketball Association announced that Minnesota Timberwolves French player Rudy Gobert won the 2024 NBA Defensive Player of the Year award, tying a league record by winning the honor for the 4th time.
Just really grateful. You know, obviously it's been a crazy 48 hours. Try to realize everything that's happening, but at the same time, I'm so focused on what we are doing right now that yeah, it's kind of like I'm enjoying every day as it comes. But yeah, a lot of gratitude. You know, it's been a process, obviously.
In other news, the AI Seoul Summit, co-hosted with the United Kingdom, came to an end after debating on concerning issues regarding artificial intelligence and signing an agreement among participants. Let's see further details.
The meeting is a follow-up to November's AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park in the UK, aimed at discussing issues such as job security, copyright and inequality. In that regard, ministers expressed their views and shared their proposals.
The ministerial session held today will seek more specific and practical measures based on the vision presented in the Seoul Declaration, and will especially focus on ensuring artificial intelligence safety and sustainable AI development.
We have a joint mission to grip the risk so that we can together seize the incredible opportunities across our public services, our businesses, and our societies at large. However, my message today is that we should not rest on our laurels. As the pace of AI development accelerates, we must match that speed with our own efforts and action if we are to grip the risks and seize the opportunities. It is our responsibility to ensure that human wisdom keeps pace with human knowledge as we navigate the most complex technology humanity has ever produced.
On Tuesday, over 12 tech companies signed a voluntary agreement to enhance artificial intelligence safety, including Alphabet's Google, Microsoft, Xiaomi, Amazon, Samsung Electronics, among others. They agreed on using methods as watermarking to identify AI-generated content, as well as grant job creation and support socially vulnerable groups. The PM of South Korea gave the opening remarks on the subject.
The Republic of Korea is fully committed to contributing to the development of safe, innovative, and inclusive AI technologies for the benefit of its citizens and the global community. AI safety cannot be truly achieved until those who are the most vulnerable have access to necessary means to respond to threats and challenges posed by this new technology.
The Artificial Intelligence Seoul Summit will come to an end on Wednesday, after engaging leaders and chief executive officers of companies in talks on AI safety and inclusive AI policies, among other pivotal issues. The next encounter will be held in France in 2025.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.